Contract year players, can they be as good as they were last year? We'll talk about that right now on Fantasy Football Today in 5. It's Adam and Dan here, and we're talking about players that are going into contract years and what they did last year. Can they do better this year? Maybe worse. We'll see what Dan Schneider thinks. Dak Prescott was QB3 last year. He averaged 23.5 fantasy points per game and 6 point per passing touchdown leagues. Better or worse? What do you think?
Hard to beat that. I'm going to go worse just because that was such a high bar to set. I do think having another year in McCarthy's offense will help him, but I don't think they added enough weapons around him for me to be confident that he's going to be better. Losing Tony Pollard should hurt a little bit as well. Offensive line takes a little bit of an upgrade, but also a downgrade, losing Tyron Smith, their decade-long left tackle pass protector. You know, he's been hurt a bunch, but still probably their best option. So I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, I'm going to take the under on QB3, the 23.5 points per game. He's actually been around 24 or, around this range or better in 4 of the last 5 years. So it's just that usually doesn't make a QB3. That's the thing. Like, he just was a bad year for quarterbacks. So it's going to be a matter of, do we get bounce back seasons from some quarterbacks? I think we will. I think that'll make Prescott more like QB7 or so. So I will take the under on that. The points per game probably in the same range because he's very consistent. I wish he had another weapon. I think he's got pretty bad weapons outside of CeeDee Lamb. It's crazy. But that was enough for him last year. Jordan Love, QB7 last year, about 22 points per game. Better or worse? QB7 for Love.
Worse for me, unfortunately, even though I do like Love. I do love the weapons. Everything is there for him. They even add Josh Jacobs to the mix to take a little pressure off, have defenses be forced to play a little further up in the box. But QB7 is just a tough bar to pass, especially when we add into the mix Anthony Richardson potentially being healthy and the rushing floor that he brings, and Jaden Daniels in the mix here as well. So I'm going to go under on QB7.
All right. And Jordan Love last year was actually QB 3 or 4 overall, but he was about 7th per game.
Yeah.
Stefan Diggs.
Oof.
So Stefan Diggs last year, wide receiver 13 overall, I believe. And let me just check, make sure I'm not crazy here. He was 9 overall, and he was about 14th per game. What do you think about that for Diggs?
14th per game, 9 overall. It's going to be tough to match that. I'm going to go under on that. Just too many mouths to feed in Houston. Rapport already built with Nico and Tank Dell. And quite frankly, the rate stats on Nico Collins, Jacob Gibbs has done a great job of showing these on Twitter if you want to find them, and in the FFT newsletter, which they must subscribe at this point, with Jacob banging out like 2,500 word newsletters a day with just packed with advanced stats and actionable information, but showed that Nico Collins from a route, yards per route standpoint and just some of the advanced metrics, honestly, had one of the best receiver seasons we've seen in the last decade. So I really do believe that he's the true breakout there. He's going to be the alpha one, and I don't want to buy into Diggs being a wide receiver 14 with that target share that I don't think is going to be too high.
How about Brandon Aiyuk? 15.6 points per game and wide receiver 16.
I'll take the over on that. Love me some Brandon Aiyuk, one of my favorite actual receivers in the NFL. And I just want to bank on him slightly beating out wide receiver 16 with a little bit more touchdown luck. It's tough.
I think
Why'd you give me all unders? You gave me all unders.
What do you mean?
None of these have been...
Well, you just took it over on Aiyuk.
I had to. I feel like we had to take some over. No, I'm kidding.
I think I'm going to go under on Aiyuk. I haven't really been drafting him. Just not enough targets. And he's like Nico Collins. He had an unbelievably efficient season last year, Brandon Aiyuk. And if that efficiency comes down, which it will, and the targets don't go up, I don't know that you're getting wide receiver 16. I think it's going to be more like 20. Amari Cooper, definitely going under here. Wide receiver 17.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like without Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he was more like wide receiver 6. But Amari Cooper, a little bit worse than Diggs and Aiyuk. But I think more like wide receiver 20 to 24 for Cooper, for me.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, then how about one that might be an over? Chris Godwin, last year, wide receiver 36.
Over, yeah. We think we both like the year removed from the ACL and hopefully him getting back into the role that he thrived in before the ACL.
Well said. Well said, Dan Schneider. Yeah, I think last year was a bit of a fluky year in some senses for Mike Evans, and saw the targets even out a little bit down the stretch between Godwin and Evans. So hoping that we build on that. They're going to use him more in the slot. He's one of my favorite draft values, just outside the top 30 at wide receiver in ADP. For Dan Schneider, I'm Adam Azer. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday on FFT in 5.